Hi friends, hello. So today's video, we are going to be talking about a lot of things that have been happening the past few days. I don't know if you've noticed, you probably have. There's been a lot of drama surrounding me, my collaboration with Angelica, and I feel like there has been a lot of people speaking on the situation that wasn't Angelica or I, and so I felt like I didn't need to address what third parties were kind of thinking about it, but now that Angelica has made a statement, I do feel that I need to get on video and talk about this and address this like head on. And I've decided with this video, I apologize in advance for how long this is going to be, like truly. However, I've decided with this video that I'm not only going to be addressing the Angelica thing, but I'm going to be addressing everything. Because I feel like for the past year, I have had a group of creators continually attack me for what I would consider something that was slightly rude. So we're going to be getting into that today as well, but the first thing I want to address is Angelica. I am really sorry in advance to people who feel that this entire situation should have been handled privately, and in turn probably feel that this video should have been not made. However, I feel Angelica, whether she meant to or didn't mean to, has grossly misrepresented the conversation that I had in private with her, and I do feel that that needs to be corrected. I also would like to say that I think Angelica made a great example with her video by saying she was going to be donating to charity and also making it a fundraiser, so I decided that I will be matching her donation and will not be monetizing it. You guys know that when situations like this happen, I don't monetize my videos normally, and I agree that this is not a situation that either of us should be profiting off of, because quite frankly, both of us made a lot of mistakes in this situation. The first thing I want to do is explain to you guys why I made my apology public the way that I did. And I feel like that's really, really important to note, because I definitely think that is one of the things I've been most heavily criticized for this past week. I want to start off by saying, even after I tell you like my reasoning, it is totally justified to think that I should have handled this privately. I understand why this may make me look bad for handling it the way that I did, and I understand why people would disagree with publicly talking about your friend this way, but I do want to at least just give my perspective, because I feel like that's what's lacking from this conversation, is my side has not been able to be told on why I did what I did. I would at least, if people are going to be upset with me about that, I would at least like people to know why I did that in the first place. And if after I tell you you're still mad, I totally get it. It's definitely a situation where like people are gonna feel 50-50, and I understand that. I reached out to Angelica in August of this year because I saw a tweet that she had posted. I do not remember exactly what the tweet said, but it was something along the lines of she was upset because she felt like she was getting canceled for talking about the Kardashians. And I messaged her because up until that point, we had a pretty, we weren't like super close, but like if one of us was upset or tweeting something upset, we reached out to each other. Like we had that type of relationship. So I reached out to her and I basically was like, I want to say right now, I'm not showing screenshots, and that's simply because I'm respecting Angelica's privacy. She doesn't want me to show screenshots. I respect that. So I guess you can either take my word or hers, like I get it, but she doesn't want me to share it. I'm respecting that, what she wants. So I reached out to Angelica in August, basically said, hey, hope you're okay. I see you're going through something, because I saw that one tweet and was like, oh, I should message her. Like, what's she going through? So she told me that she was being like unfairly kind of ridiculed because she mentioned Kylie Jenner. And I thought, well, that's strange, because like I mentioned Kylie Jenner in videos like Kylie Cosmetics, and I don't get dragged. And I told her that. I was like, well, that's silly. Like, you shouldn't be getting dragged just for mentioning somebody. And I basically was like, you know, I was like, I know that they're kind of problematic, because I had kind of just learned about it because I was taking a summer class. This is not the point, but I was taking a summer class and we talked a lot about the cultural impact of the Kardashians. And so I was like, I get why people are upset, but at the same time, like, they are cultural figures. I like, you can't be expected to know everything about everyone. Basically, she was like, yes, this was happening. And we also had a conversation about blocking people, because she said she started blocking people who were calling her out. And I was like, you know, do what you have to do. Like, if you feel like you were being attacked, yeah. And she sent me a screenshot from Diana, who ended up making a video about her, and said, this is the girl I had to block. And it was really interesting because earlier that day, I had tweeted about Khloe Kardashian and how I didn't feel she needed to be fat shamed or something along those lines. And Diana had responded to me just saying like she didn't feel bad for the Kardashians. And frankly, I should have taken the time to have that conversation with her, understand her perspective. I didn't. I just muted her because I really was like, I just felt like I wasn't wrong for defending Khloe Kardashian from fat shaming. However, looking back, absolutely should have handled that better. So I said, oh, that's interesting. Like, that's the same girl that was kind of giving me, you know, crap in my comments. And we had that conversation, and then it ended with her being like, I'm being accused of blocking like people of color or something like that. And honestly, I didn't respond to that. And I don't know if it's because I just didn't see it until much later, so I didn't respond. If you've DM'd with me, you know that I do that. I'm not always the greatest at keeping up with DMs. I don't know if I saw it and just like didn't respond for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why. But the next message I have is basically inviting Angelika to come into my channel for Glowmas and to do this collaboration. So we posted the collaboration, and pretty much right away I was seeing comments of people basically saying they were disappointed that I chose to collaborate with Angelika, and they were, you know, disappointed because she had done things that were microaggressive. She had like kind of ignored her audience when called out. She had done things that were transphobic. We're going to talk about that in a second. All of these things. And I was kind of like, well, this is weird because I've never heard anything about this. And if I'm being perfectly honest, the Kylie Jenner situation was literally not in my realm of what I thought happened. Because when I talked to her about that, it seemed like such a small scale issue, the way that she was talking about it, that I was like, there is no way. I literally didn't even think about that situation. Like, at all. Full transparency, literally did not think about it. And I was like, well, this is weird. I need to talk to her about this. But I wanted to acknowledge the comments that I was seeing because I was seeing a lot of them. And not only were those comments being posted, they were getting a lot of likes, which meant they were higher up in my comments. And a lot of other people were commenting under, like agreeing with those people. I decided to kind of reply to a couple comments and be like, hey, I didn't know about this. Like, I am going to look into it. And then I immediately DM'd Angelika. Because of the time zone difference between me and Angelika, she was obviously sleeping. So I waited a few hours and was just like hoping she'd wake up because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to tell people anything because I didn't know what was going on. I made a decision to pin a comment on that video, basically just saying, hey guys, I see the comments. I'm going to look into it. Thank you for letting me know. I felt like that was a neutral stance. I felt like that was me trying to just say, I'm gonna look into it. I absolutely should have waited to hear from Angelika before posting that, so she didn't wake up to a pinned comment that had a lot of stuff underneath it. Absolutely. I've apologized to her for that multiple times, and I agree that in that situation, that was a place where I made a mistake. I felt I owed an obligation to my audience to let you guys know that I had seen the comments and that I wasn't just trying to like ignore them, but I understand from her perspective why that seemed shady. Completely understand that. I have to say, despite that, I do not think, whether I had waited to pin a comment or not, I do not think that this situation would have turned out any differently. I also think it's very important to note, because I feel this is being very, again, just misrepresented, is that I did not condemn her in this comment. I just said that I needed to look into it and thanked people for bringing it to my attention. So I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning. I had a bunch of messages from Angelika, and I honestly felt right off the bat she was pissed, obviously. I'm not blaming her for being like pissed off that all of this was being brought up. And I'm not blaming her for being pissed off at me for pinning a comment before talking to her. 100% totally get that. However, I do not feel, right from the start, I did not feel like she was open to hearing the things that I'd watched one video, I'd watched Diana's video. I did not feel that she was open to hearing kind of what I was trying to say to her about the situation, and I did not feel she was open to listening to me or open to listening to any other perspective other than what she thought to be true. We went back and forth on this situation for hours, like literal hours. I spent hours just talking to her. I personally feel that she kind of downplayed the situation to me. I felt that anytime I would try to like give an opposing perspective, she basically was like, no, that's not true, that's a lie. And I felt that she was taking situations that weren't like truth or fact, but were instead matters of opinion and boiling them down to be truth or fact. During this time, going back and forth, Angelika did address this in her video. She did call me a sheep and said I was a sheep. I don't think she gave proper context to this about why this made me so upset. And that was because she implied I was a sheep because she implied that I was just going with the crowd to make other people happy instead of listening to her. I was trying to work with her to figure out a new pinned comment that would be defending her but would also be respectful to the people who were offended by her actions. I genuinely saw a different side of her in this conversation because I felt like she was being very rude to me. She brought up situations like what happened in Houston, which we're going to get to in this video. Genuinely felt like it was a lot of kind of just her being on the attack. I think that's because she was nervous, stressed, I'm sure. From my perspective, it felt like I had somebody who was like relentlessly going in on me because I didn't agree with her that she was 100% right in a situation. She implied that I was a bad friend and a flip-flopper for questioning her on this whole situation. Like, she got very annoyed with me for wanting to ask clarifying questions because she felt she had already explained it, even though there was a lot of layers to this situation, a lot of accusations, and a lot of things that were not clear from her talking to me about it. There were a few things that happened that led me to post my very first pinned comment on my video, which I just want to say, like, full 100%, that was a horrible comment. It was horrible. It was, even if I was trying to defend Angelika and I genuinely was like, I'm riding or dying for my friend, that was a horrible, horrible statement to make, and I genuinely don't know what I was thinking. There were a few things at play. The first thing at play was that I genuinely wanted to believe my friend, and a mistake I made was listening to my friend before listening to people from communities that were hurt. I hadn't yet talked to anybody who had been hurt or offended by what happened with Angelica. I hadn't discussed it with them yet, and I was just going off of Diana's video and what my friend was telling me, which she told me that video was a lie. I was trying to believe my friend. I was trying to stand up for my friend. Honestly, I feel like ashamed to admit this, but I feel like it's important to say because I think this is important conversation. I knew that if I said that I disagreed with her, and I knew that if I made this like a big thing, that this is exactly what would happen. I knew that people would misrepresent me as a flip-flopper. I knew that people would say this was a pattern of, I knew all of this, and I was scared. I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to be seen as a bad friend. I'm so sick of being labeled as a bad friend, and I'm gonna get into that more later, but I just wanna say that here because it's not true. It's blatantly misrepresenting situations, and at the same time, like, I was genuinely afraid of that. So not only was I trying to believe my friend, selfishly, I didn't want to do this, and I didn't want to go against what she was saying because I knew the hellstorm that I would be bringing on myself. I asked her multiple times why she wasn't going to make a video, to please make a video, and to address the situation. Her response to me upon asking that was that she had talked to other larger YouTubers and they had told her to not address small lies about anything. They had told her not to do that. And so she felt that if she addressed these situations, it would just bring on more lies. She felt like it would pile on to her. So she didn't want to make a full video addressing these things. I pointed out that if she was going to do collab videos in the future, that this would always be a problem, and she said she wasn't going to do any collabs after this. So at this time, I genuinely wanted to believe my friend. Like, that was the whole point of me working with her to try to figure out a pinned comment that we could both agree on. I genuinely wanted to support my friend. I wanted to do that while not trying to silence other communities, which is what I told her, but I also wanted to support her and I wanted to believe her. And honestly, looking back on that conversation and looking back at what she told me, I genuinely feel that she lied to me and it misrepresented the situation to me. I feel that there were a lot of details from that situation that were completely omitted that I had to find out later through third-party sources. She told me repeatedly in regards to these situations that she did not do anything wrong. She has since come back to me like an hour ago and clarified that she did not mean she never did anything wrong when she said that. So, like, take that as you will. Full transparency, she did just say that to me. But at the time, that is what she was saying to me, was that she didn't do anything wrong and she was omitting information and downplaying heavily the situation to me. Now, I'm not gonna lie, a part of this absolutely was I was nervous about public opinion, but it is not in the way that people are representing me to be afraid of public opinion. The reason I did my first pinned comment the way that I did, and again, horrible statement, and I'm so sorry to the people who it impacted and who it hurt. I know the perception that a lot of channels, specifically ones who were at a party in Houston in 2019, which I am going to get to, I know how they perceive me, and I know how quickly they're willing to jump on anything I do to try and make me look bad and tear me down. And I'm going to get into this. I'm not just speaking out of my ass here. I have receipts for what's happening. I'm going to get into it in a minute. I know that public perception of me. Angelica even brought up that public perception to me as a way to tell me that I was being a bad friend by not believing her. I would be lying if I said a part of me kind of was a little bit sus about what she was telling me. However, I was absolutely scared of this exact situation happening because I knew that this exact situation would happen. I knew that this is what would happen if I went against her. I knew that. And that is, I think, another part of the reason, especially upon looking back at the past 2 days and looking back, I'm like, why did I do that first pinned comment? I think that was also a big part of it. I think what's really important to note here, and how I want to just like make this a bit of a lesson, is the fear of getting like canceled. As it's been said that I've been canceled. The fear of getting canceled should never make you feel like you shouldn't do the right thing. At the end of the day, my fear of being labeled as something that I know I'm not should not have made me feel like I needed to make a statement that went directly against what the BIPOC community was telling me. I pride myself on my channel of being an ally, and I was not an ally in this situation, especially regarding that first comment, and I need to own up to that. And also, I completely understand if that pinned comment made you disappointed or hurt or unsubscribed or not wanted to support me anymore. I completely understand that. And again, I cannot express my apologies enough. I know that what I did was hurtful, and I know that I can't take it back. All I can do is apologize and show with my actions going forward that I'm going to continue to work to be a better ally. I was talking to Angelica about this, and we agreed that I would change, after a very long discussion, we agreed that I would change my pinned comment to be something along the lines of, I talked to Angelica. I'll put the pinned comment right here that I came up with. Again, understand that it's bad. I know that it's bad. After posting this, I was pretty much immediately getting a lot of people who were still incredibly disappointed in my stance on the situation. And I was getting multiple, not only like comments, but I was getting a ton of tweets of basically people being like, I still feel like you don't know the full story, or you wouldn't be, you know, doing this. I also would like to note at this point that I specifically said in this comment that I was not finding any sort of instances of transphobia, and I think that becomes very, very important later on. So just, I would like to make note of that I did specifically say that in this comment. After I continued to get comments and tweets from a plethora of people telling me that I was on the wrong side of this and that I was not understanding the seriousness of it, I personally decided that I need to get more information outside of Angelica, and I went ahead and reached out to a bunch of other creators and just accounts and just people who were tagging me, and I just wanted to know information. I wanted videos to watch. I wanted any sort of, like, I hate to call it receipts, but just like information. I needed to know the bigger picture because it was obvious based on all of the responses that I was getting that I was clearly missing something from this conversation. And I want to be clear here. This is where, when I started doing this, I found that I could not find any concrete instances of transphobia, despite accounts from people who didn't have any sort of like screenshots that she misgendered them. Now, in my original pinned comment, I said there was no instances of transphobia, and it took away, and I said something along the lines of, saying that there is distracts from actual instances of transphobia. Me trying to say what actual transphobia was is not okay. I am not a part of the trans community. It was absolutely not my place to try and dictate what actual instances of transphobia are, and my wording of that was horrible. However, there was no concrete instances that I found that Angelica had done things that were transphobic. There are only first-hand accounts of people claiming so. And again, I do not say this to try to belittle anybody who maybe had that experience. I'm trying not to, but at the same time, I cannot in good faith get on here and be like, yep, there's receipts, there's proof of this, because there simply is not. And I made that very clear in my first statement. Now, what I did find out through doing all of this research and watching all of these videos was that Angelica had privately DM'd somebody who had made a thread calling her out, basically. And after reading the entirety of the screenshots, not just what Angelica had posted, but reading the entirety of the screenshots, found that she manipulated in DMs. I also found that her response in regards to the BIPOC comments, I genuinely felt like that was not addressed properly. I know she pinned comments after the fact, but there was a lot of deleted tweets that came. I'm just going to link the video down below that I watched. I think it was a really informative look at the microaggressions, the not listening to the community. I think that was a really, really good video, just explaining everything in detail and also explaining what happened in the DMs. At this point, I realized, after watching all of these videos, that I am a raging hypocrite. I have called out multiple people this year for getting into fans' DMs and trying to manipulate situations. I have called that out publicly with Gabby Hanna, with Colleen Ballinger. I've called that out. So now I'm sitting here going, well, now I have just offended a person who I don't agree with anymore. I do not agree that she should have done those things. I don't agree that she should have tweeted the things she did and then delete them. I don't agree with the way she was responding to situations. I don't agree with the way she was liking shady tweets that were literally favoring her at the same time that she was pinning comments apologizing. I don't agree with that. And I realized that it was not my place to be accepting her apology or talking about her growth and change when the people who were calling her out in the BIPOC community were telling me in the DMs that they did not feel that this was enough. So after I got all of this information, I tried to talk to Angelica again, and I said, listen, I have a new perspective. I have a new side to these things. I knew that the way that she handled that situation and the way that everything went down, I knew that she was wrong in that situation, and I felt she needed to address it, and she was not responsive to me saying that. In her video, Angelica said that I knew there was no evidence of any transphobia and that I was going to go forward anyway and go ahead anyway with that narrative to protect myself from a mob. That is basically what she said in her video. And I think it's very interesting that she made sure to specify that she was paraphrasing this situation, because that's just not what I said. In my conversation with Angelica and in In my pinned comment on YouTube, I made it crystal clear that there was no evidence of transphobia, and I have not changed my stance on that. This is not just about the transphobia. This is about everything to do with this situation. I'm gonna put my statement that I made after we had this conversation up on the screen, and I think you'll be able to notice nowhere in here did I mention anything about transphobia. If I was gonna sit there and be like a malicious person being like, yeah, I know the truth, but I'm gonna lie. I'm gonna lie about you. For some reason, I'm gonna lie about you about this. Don't you think I would have included that in my post about this whole situation? Don't you think I would have perpetuated that stereotype to make people happy? Wouldn't I have done that to avoid pissing off communities, which apparently is what I was doing? Frankly, I hate to do this, but if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, this is never something that I would literally ever say or do. Ever. I would never know information and then just lie about knowing that information. That is not something that I would do. In my statement, I specifically mentioned the microaggressions, the not owning up to this situation, and I specifically did not mention any issues or instances with transphobia because I knew that there was no merit to that situation as far as I could personally tell. I'm sorry if I keep repeating this, but I feel like I cannot be clear enough that flat out, I did not say that I would just go along with it to appease people. That is the part of her video that legitimately hurt me the absolute most because that is never something that I would do. I would never just go along with something and lie about somebody like that. Never. Especially when I literally didn't even mention transphobia in my final statement about this issue. And earlier on specifically made the point that I could not find any information to say that this was true. Publicly in my pinned comment, I said that. I just wanted to clarify this because I feel like I didn't actually say what I said in this situation. So I have the DMs that Angelica sent me where this is where she feels that I said that I was just going to go along with this anyway to paint a narrative. And basically I said that people were getting angry about the situation and getting mad about my pinned comment. I didn't know what to do because I couldn't find anything about the transphobia, which I was very honest about. And then I also said, but I feel, and this is my message, I also feel like people in marginalized groups are hurt by what I said, and that's literally never what I want to do. So I basically was saying, this is the screenshot she sent me that's her like evidence that I said this. I've read this 10 times and I didn't say this. I basically said people are getting angry and I don't want to hurt people. And I can't find any evidence that you did this, but also I don't want to keep hurting marginalized groups by keeping my pinned comment up. She basically said all of it's a lie, compared it to the James and Tati situation. She basically said I can't just agree with them because they're a marginalized community if there's no proof. And then she basically said the thing that she's accusing me of saying, which is she said that I was trying to add to lies about her in order to cancel her to make other people happy. That's what she said. And I basically said, I don't want to do that. I am trying to defend you. And if I wanted to just blindly agree with other people, I would just do that. And then she basically said what she said I said in her video, which is that I just want to go along with a narrative to make people happy. And also says that the reason I was getting heat for this situation was because I addressed it. She's blaming me for this situation happening when what she did in August is what caused this entire situation to happen. And I basically say, I want to delete the pinned comment because it's spreading drama and it's making both of us look worse, frankly. Because this pinned comment was bad. It was making both of us look bad. And then she said, and I am left with people thinking that I'm transphobic because in her opinion, if I deleted the comment, it would be me saying that there is evidence that she is transphobic. And I basically said, Angelica, this is why I'm reaching out to you because there is no evidence of the transphobia, but this pinned comment is not going over well. This isn't doing well. Like this isn't getting the point across that I wanted to get across. And that's what she sent me, basically, that said I said that. So nowhere in there, in her own screenshots, and she has all of my permission to leak this because nowhere in there did I say, yes, I know that there's no misinformation, but I'm going to lie anyways and go along with this because of public opinion about me. And what's crazy to me is if I actually go into our conversation and see what happened, right underneath this, I say to her, I'm gonna leave the screenshot up and I'm just gonna be done with this and I'll take the hit for you, I guess. But just know that I'm pretty disappointed in this whole situation. I'm disappointed that you called me names in this conversation and I'm disappointed with this entire interaction. And then we got back into the conversation we were already having, which was about my initial pinned comment and how she feels that that made her look guilty. And we just got back into that. But that is where, when I asked her, I was like, send me screenshots of where I said this. That's what she sent me. And I didn't say that anywhere. The only thing I said was I wanted to delete the pinned comment because I felt like it was making things worse for both of us. Not even just me, it was making both of us look bad. And also, this was before I had talked to other creators behind the scenes and gotten a lot more information on the situation. However, I was starting to feel a little bit weird because I'm sitting here like, well, if she's telling me this is all a lie and she's telling me that this isn't true, why are there so many people in my comments telling me that she's done XYZ, she's done this, she's done that? Like, why is that happening? I understand why she doesn't want the DMs out. Frankly, they make us both look not very good because I got super angry at some points, she got super angry at some points. I get why she doesn't want it out, but frankly, like, if you're gonna lie about what I said in the DMs, post it. Like, let's post what I just read. I can't. You're telling me I can't. But I wish I could, because it very clearly says in there that I just wanted to delete a pinned comment because I felt like it was making us both look bad. I never said, yes, I want to just go along with this for the sake of hurting you. Never. And the fact that you would even... Never mind. She literally used her own words and then said I said it. So anyway, while we're talking about the DMs, I do want to address and talk about this comment that she mentioned where I said I was getting heat and I wouldn't take heat for her as a friend. I did say something along those lines. It wasn't exactly that, but it was something along the lines of that. And I do feel, again, that that comment was absolutely taken out of context for the purpose of her video. At this point in the conversation, before I made my Twitter post, I genuinely felt like I had not only been lied to once by Angelica, but that I had been lied to twice. She had downplayed and omitted things from this situation and let me go out there and go to bat for her and defend her when she knew that that wasn't true and she knew that I was missing pieces of the puzzle. Honestly, if we want to talk about the idea of being a good or a bad friend, I would say that being a good friend would not be letting your other good friend go out and publicly defend you, not knowing all of the facts and not knowing all of the information, and then letting your friend get a ton of heat for doing that. She knew that I was getting a ton of criticism for supporting her, and she knew that I was like stressed about that. Obviously, nobody wants to be getting criticism for supporting a friend. She knew I was stressed about that, and she basically told me to deal with it and that she would not be making a public statement, even though I had asked her to make a public statement. I cannot stress this enough. I asked her multiple times to address this. I don't think a true friend would let their friend fall on a sword for them and would let their friend get publicly blasted while they sat in silence and said nothing and allowed that to happen. Multiple times during this situation, to my own detriment and stupidly, I was defending Angelica, and not once did she think to ever or even offer to say anything in defense of me. And honestly, in the DMs, she was not being nice to me. Like, she was not like, and that's I think why I think I was kind of snapped and said the getting heat comment was because this was right after she had doubled down and told me that I was a sheep who was purposefully trying to ruin her. I even said, don't call me a sheep, and she explained what being a sheep is and then said, that's what you're doing. At this point, I truly felt that Angelica was not going to learn from this situation, at least from me. She was not going to learn or try to own up to this situation, at least coming from me. And I felt that because this had all been made public, I needed to at least make a public statement to apologize to the people that I had hurt and to say that I did not stand behind the collab anymore or her as a person because of how bad our interactions were behind the scenes. Honestly, I just want to talk for a second about Angelica's video because frankly, while I am glad that she made the statement, and honestly, like, I'm glad, I can't help but feel a little bit weird about the whole thing, given what I talked to her about privately. The thing that I am having a hard time understanding is why Angelica could not just say what she said in the first part of her video right off the bat when all of this started. Why could she not just get on camera and make a video addressing it the way that she did? Why did it take me having to call you out and you losing 5,000 subscribers to address something that should have been addressed and handled in August? So while I am glad she made this video, and I truly do hope that it helps the people that she hurt, I have to question the authenticity of this video and of this statement because frankly, she could have done this 4 days ago when all of this started, and none of this would have needed to happen. I asked her multiple times to make a video and questioned why she wasn't going to make a video, and each time she refused and told me she did not want to do that. So it makes me feel a little bit weird because she has been sitting there for 2 days allowing drama channels to completely change the narrative to, instead of being about her and her mistakes and her microaggressions and the things that she's done, instead of having that conversation, we're having the conversation of, is Smokey Glow a good friend or not? That's so disrespectful to the BIPOC community, who were begging for this to be talked about, who were begging for more attention to be brought to this, who were pleading that she make a proper apology. It genuinely, to me, feels like she was content to sit there, like shady tweets calling me fake woke and a snake, and she was okay with sitting in silence and allowing drama channels to talk for her and to paint me to be the bad guy instead of addressing what she did. She was okay with doing that, but this got so big that she could no longer avoid this and could no longer not address it, and that is why she finally addressed it. Overall, I think, just to end this Angelica portion, I genuinely am just so disappointed. I think the important point to note here, and I guess the overall takeaway that I would love for people to have of this, is like, it's okay to be presented with new information about your friends and to see your friends in a different light and to change your opinion of them based on that. It is okay to learn new information and change your opinion as a result of this. Okay, let's do Houston. So now we're gonna just quickly transition into part 2. Which is Houston and the drama channels. This situation, I apologize in advance if I seem a little bit heated, but that's because I am a little bit heated, because I feel that I have been picked at and poked at and prodded at for over a year because I declined an invitation to a party. And I feel like it's about time, since they want to keep bringing up this story and keep twisting what exactly happened and not telling the truth, I think it's about time that I share my side of the Houston story. I also want to say before I start this whole situation, I know that there's a lot of stuff with Petty Paige and me. Frankly, I think Paige absolutely did not deserve the crap that she got for what she said in Houston. And on top of that, I don't want to get into everything that happened with Paige simply because I saw on Twitter that I know she's going through a very difficult time, and I do not want to add to her stress or whatever she's going through. So if she would like to talk to me, or we want to have a conversation, or she wants me to address whatever, we can absolutely have a conversation. So who I'm going to be addressing today is Dustin Daly, Nick Snyder, and Rich Lux. The reason that I am choosing to address Rich, Nick, and Dustin is because they have continually made shady tweets about me, talked about this situation in videos, misrepresent this situation in videos, and tried to use this as a way to paint a pattern of behavior and say that I like to embarrass people. So let's talk about this. Back in, I would say probably September is when this really started, because in September of last year, I was going to a wedding, my friend's wedding in Texas. And at the time I was talking about oh, I'm going to be in Dallas, I'm going to be, doing this wedding. And Nick Snyder messaged me and said, hey, if you're going to be in Texas, I would love to meet up with you. We had not talked prior to this. I think he had been in a couple of my live streams. We're going to get to that in a second. And I had talked to him as a mutual on Twitter. We'd had a couple of exchanges on Twitter. And it turned out I just was not going to have time because I was going to be in a different part of Texas. And I was like, yep, sorry, going to a wedding, can't see you, whatever. That was the first time I ever talked to Nick. The second time I ever talked to Nick was he invited me to his Christmas party, his drama channel Christmas party that was happening in Texas. And when he asked me if I wanted to come, I said to him that I wasn't sure if I was going to still be in school, and I wasn't sure, really, I'm not gonna lie, I was making an excuse. I literally was not gonna be in school. I didn't know if I wanted to go. I didn't know if I wanted to meet all of these people. I didn't know if I wanted to be a part of it. I wasn't sure, okay? I didn't know. At this point, I think I was at 60,000 subscribers, and I did feel a little bit intimidated going to a party where there were so many bigger channels, and not even that, I just wasn't sure about the dynamic, how that would go. I had no idea. However, I was on a live stream on my channel one day, and Nick donated $20 and basically said publicly, everybody bully Hannah and tell her to come to my party, which I don't think he did maliciously. I'm not trying to imply it was malicious, but he did publicly also invite me after I said I wasn't sure if I could go. And I remember saying in that live stream, oh, you're putting me on blast, kind of joking with him about it. And then I remember a few people tweeting at me being like, hey, I don't know about this whole party, but I also had a few people that were going and were like, yeah, we're going, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fun. And I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna go. go. And I talked to my fiance about it. I talked about all of this in my original video. Talked to my fiance about it. He was like, it might be good to like meet, you know, network, because kind of YouTubers that you talk to and are friendly with, but you don't like know, it's kind of like coworkers, like they're your coworkers. So he's like, it's basically like an office Christmas party. Like you're going to meet this community that you're a part of. And also I genuinely, and this is going to sound fake, but this is the truth. I genuinely was excited to meet Petty Paige. I was excited to meet her because I've loved her since before I started my YouTube channel. I've watched her for so long. I've always loved her, always supported her, and I wanted to meet her. I bought my plane ticket. I booked my hotel. I made plans to go with one of my friends who was also going to be attending. We made plans to like be at the same hotel. I had every intention of going to this party. I believe it was the day before Thanksgiving. There were tweets and DMs that came out about Rich Lux where he used the hard R in DMs and also used the hard, there was like a video where he allegedly said the N-word. Just all of this very racist stuff coming out about Rich Lux. And Rich Lux on Twitter was like, why is everybody calling me out for this? I distinctly remember just being so angry because he was like, why is everybody calling me out for this? I shouldn't be being called out for this. Like people grow and learn, people change. And I responded to him and I was like, so is this true? Like you're admitting to this, that this is completely true? Because if you actually did this and you used these words and this is your response, that's not okay. And of course, every single person, because to their credit, they're ride or die technically for their friends, none of them said anything about him publicly. None of them wanted to talk about it publicly. None of them wanted to say anything publicly. And to me, I felt like that was ridiculous. I felt like that was so hypocritical. I felt like it was ridiculous that they would be unwilling to talk about this. I really was just so frustrated by that. And frankly, I didn't want to go to a party and see Rich Lux, who, even though he wasn't the host, he was a major guest at this party. I didn't want to go to a party that had him there. I didn't want to do it. And frankly, I don't think I'm wrong for not wanting to do that. I'm not wrong. I didn't want to associate with somebody who was not only racist, but had absolutely one of the worst apology videos to being called out for being racist, with servants walking around in his background with white gloves as he fake cried about being called out for this. So I decided that I needed to make a video, and because Nick Snyder had publicly invited me to this party, and because people knew I planned on attending, I felt that I needed to publicly state, hey, because again, this was made public, not by me. I felt like I needed to publicly state my stance, and I needed to also publicly call out Rich Lux because nobody else was doing it. So that's what I did. You can still go watch that video. I'll link it in the description. It's still live on my channel, and I still stand by every single point in that video. Which I would just like to say, it's very, very convenient that every time Nick, Dustin, or Rich brings up this situation, they conveniently leave out the part of my video where I said I wasn't going because I didn't want to be associated with a person who I thought was racist. I just find that interesting. I think it's very interesting that they always somehow forget that that's what happened. Here's where I screwed up. Should I have messaged Nick Snyder, at least before posting my video, saying I wasn't going to be attending this party? Yes, I absolutely should have messaged him. However, at the time, how I was feeling was, I don't really owe a private text to this person apologizing for not going to their party when they're refusing to condemn this person for racist actions. I didn't feel I owed him that, especially given we had talked literally 2 times behind the scenes in the DMs. Now, this is something I feel I've never talked about and I've never addressed because I never wanted to talk about this. However, what I don't think people realize is that the day I posted that video, which was on Thanksgiving, Nick Snyder DM'd me privately on Twitter and basically said to me, hey, I'm not mad at you at all. I have no ill will. You made some good points in your video, and I understand where you're coming from and why you don't want to come. And by the way, the invitation is still open if you change your mind. And you want to know what I said to him? Truth, honestly, I said, thank fucking God, because I was scared. And he ended it being like, happy Thanksgiving, like, and that's that on that. And that is the last time I have talked to Nick Snyder. I feel as though now that you have a little bit more context on what happened, you can understand why I was a little bit taken aback and a little bit surprised why a couple of weeks later, but it was like, I think it was the week before the party was supposed to happen, there was a bunch of commentary and drama channels together doing a live stream, and basically somebody asked a question about me, and that is when Paige turned to Nick and was basically like, hey, can I bring this up? And she basically said, we think that Hannah is rude and we're angry at her, and the only reason we're angry at her is we feel like she should have messaged Nick before posting this video to like 100,000 people. And honestly, that's totally a fair criticism, but from where I'm sitting and my perspective, it kind of feels a little bit fake. Because if you actually had such a problem with me that you told Paige about it and she like unfollowed me because of it, and you guys actually all had this massive problem with me not messaging Nick, why would Nick not just tell me that the day that he DM'd me? Why would he not just say to me, hey Hannah, like it really hurt my feelings that you didn't message me before uploading that video? Why would he not just say that to me if he's gonna DM me anyway? Why would he lie in the DMs and say that everything was fine and give me, honestly, this sense of relief that like, thank God these people are not going to come after me, because when they come after people, they try to ruin them. After that live stream, the most that anybody really has said about me is that I am rude for not messaging Nick. And you know what? Fine. Totally agree. I was rude. Do I not understand the irony of this situation that he has now made videos saying I'm fake behind the scenes and then say something else in public when that is quite literally exactly what he did a year ago? Yes, I see the irony in this situation. And I find it very interesting that now, a year later, they're trying to use this as this is Hannah's pattern of behavior. She gets to know people and she uses them for clout and then she throws them under the bus. That is the narrative that they're trying to paint about me. It's Smokey Snake. She's trying to throw them under the bus now. When the reality is, I wasn't friends with any of you. Rich Lux in his own video just tried to say that he had no idea why I wasn't there, even though I didn't go because of him. And they have all tried to say that they didn't even really know who I was, or they didn't even care if I came, or they've all tried to say they don't like me. Why do you care if I come to your holiday party so much? Truth be told, I'm gonna get into a couple other things with this situation that I feel need to be addressed, but truth be told, what I genuinely think has happened specifically with Nick, Rich, and Dustin is that I genuinely feel like they think that I betrayed them and I turned my back on the drama community. And that's why I think it bothers them so much that I won't say that I'm a drama channel, that I won't just own up to being a drama channel like they think I am. Since the year has passed, they've now changed it to, it's not that they're mad at me just because I'm rude. They're mad at me because I said that they were bullies and I shouldn't have painted them out to be bullies. That's what Nick Snyder said in his most recent video. And what he's been tweeting at people is that I only said that because I wanted people to feel bad for me and I wanted to have sympathy and all of these things, right? So now they're upset with my usage of the term bully when I was talking about them. And again, I think this requires some context. I think this requires us to kind of go back in time and remember what was happening during the time when I made that video. And what was happening was Manny MUA's father had just called out Rich Lux for bullying Manny MUA because he was always calling him Manny Mooch and calling him rude names. So Manny MUA's dad had just came out and basically said, these drama channels are bullies and I don't support it. I don't support the way they talk to my son. And kind of an after effect of that was the racist stuff from Rich. So we had all of that happening where there's kind of this debate going on of like, what constitutes a bully, like whatever. And I wasn't really weighing in on that situation at that point. I did talk about it in my video that I'm gonna link down below that addresses all of this, that all of these drama channels just conveniently forget the point of the video. The other thing that had been happening was there's a channel on here called Mother who made a video that was critical of Rich Lux and I believe Nick Snyder too, and I probably Dustin, basically just critical of all of that kind of group of drama channels. And she was very critical of them. And she basically was just expressing her opinion about them. When she made this video, she had under 1,000 subscribers. And her video, I believe at the time that one of them initially tweeted about it, was at like 300 views. And all of them at this point were well over 100,000 subscribers. Like well over that point. Was super, super small, and they found out about this video, probably because somebody sent it to them. They found out that this girl had talked about them and given an opinion about them that was unfavorable, and they tried to ruin her. They tried to ruin her reputation. They found old videos of her singing with her dad or her stepdad and tried to bring that up. They tried to discredit her. They tried to send their fans to go attack her, and also Rich Lux falsely claimed that this girl was a stalker and had been stalking him for a year. He just dropped that claim, said that she was a stalker stalking him around Houston, and then quickly deleted it like a couple of days later, giving no explanation and never clearing her name from that. So if you're wondering why at that time, me as a smaller channel who had an opposing opinion to this group of drama channels, if you're asking why I was afraid and why I felt they were kind of being bullies, that is why. And to be perfectly frank, it looks like I was quite justified in my opinion of that. Looks like I was freaking right, because we are a year later from this situation and they still cannot stop bringing up this fucking Christmas party at every single point. They can't stop. To the point that 2 or 3 months ago, when Keemstar of all people was trying to come for me because of a video I made like 2 years ago when I had 4,000 subscribers. Anyway, that's not important. We're not talking about Keemstar. But when I made a video about him, Rich Lux went so far as to shit talk my makeup blending skill ability under that tweet and then quickly deleted it and tried to backtrack when he got called out for it. There's a history of these drama channels not only going after people who disagree with them, and there's a long, sordid history of that, but there's also a history of them being incredibly rude and disrespectful to not only women, but also plus-size women. They have insulted my looks as recently as literally today when Dustin decided that posting a video, he would put a picture of Angelika, a skinny blonde girl, looking beautiful in a selfie, and he decided he would post me mid-speech in a video where I look horrible. And he called somebody, Dustin especially is like the worst at this because he's always calling women bitches, literally just said that somebody looked like a toe because they disagreed with him. So do I think they're bullies? Yeah, absolutely. I think name calling and fat shaming and being overall just kind of assholes, I think that makes you bullies. Yes, I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. And honestly, the thing that just kills me about this, like truly, that I'm finally addressing this and I'm finally giving you guys what you want because you have been trying to get my goat on the internet for the past year. I'm finally giving you what you want. The thing that kills me about this is that you're all gonna make 11-minute videos with 16 ads in them and try to profit as much as humanly possible off of hurting other people because that is consistently what the three of you do. I'm sorry. Okay. Full disclosure, I've been holding that in for a year, so that felt really good. Even if you think I'm crazy, I don't care. Like, that's how I feel. Just really quickly, I want to touch on the stuff that they've been accusing me of recently and just point out the blatant hypocrisy because I also think that's pertinent to this situation. So they want to talk about that I have a pattern of behavior of throwing people under the bus, and the example they gave was Nick Snyder's Halloween party. The other example they gave was the Jen Loves Reviews situation, which they know quite literally nothing about, and I don't want to bring her into this situation. So for that sake, I'm going to leave her out of this. But I would like to talk about some of their patterns of behavior since they're so comfortable speculating about mine. They want to say that they would never sit down and publicly disavow a friend. That disavowing a friend publicly and talking bad about them publicly and putting them on blast publicly, that is something you should never do. That's being a bad friend. That's throwing somebody under the bus. That's being a bad person. You all were very quick to make videos about personal and private information about T by Alley. T by Alley, by the way, I know you don't like me and that's fine, but they fucked you over in that situation. You guys were very, very quick to make personal videos disavowing her, talking about all the drama that happened at your parties to do with T by Alley, sending your fans to go hate her. You guys were very quick to make those videos. You're also very quick to make videos discussing your friendships openly and your ending of a friendship with Ashley Kyle. You all were very quick to do that. So the idea that any of you have any room to stand on when it comes to publicly talking about friendships is absurd. Like the idea that any of you have any ground to stand on, ridiculous. And Dustin specifically is the one, because he was the first to tweet. He was the first to tweet being like, you're not going to do this to Angelika, Hannah. You're a snake. Smokey snake. That's who you are. Okay, Dustin, let's go back in the time machine. Everybody's talking about your thing with Rich Lux and how you called out Rich Lux. And I know that you've made, you've said your reasoning for why you think that's different. I think that's kind of bullshit, but like whatever. You've said your reasoning for why you think that's different. Let's talk about how you started on the internet, which was that you were friends with John Cuckian. Your channel got big because you found out new information about a person who had publicly helped you. The tide started turning against John Cuckian, rightfully so. But when the tide started turning against John Cuckian, he dropped him like a hot potato and made multiple videos exposing John Cuckian for the person he is, including private messages with John Cuckian at that time. You did that. You also have had similar situations with Peter Mon where you have publicly called him out and publicly tried to disassociate from him when public opinion of Peter was poor. So I don't really want to hear, especially from Dustin of all people, or even Nick, because he's the one who made the videos about Ashley and T by Alley. Both of those two have made videos about their friends and exposed their friends and said things about their friends that is 1,000 times worse than anything I have ever said about Angelika. And honestly, to Rich Lux's credit, yeah, you have been a pretty loyal friend, but I would honestly say that's to a fault. I would say that you have supported people when you know that it's actively hurting other people and you know they have been actively hurting other people. So if my choice here is being Dustin and Nick, who just say horrible stuff about past friendships all the time, or being Rich Lux, who blindly supports everybody for the sake of clout, I'd rather be neither, frankly. I'd rather be neither. And I think it's very telling to me, and the reason all of this matters is because it's telling to me that while Angelica, I've asked her, she told me that she did not talk to these drama channels behind the scenes. She told me that she did not say anything to them and that she wasn't trying to like spread narratives about me. She basically told me that it's because of their opinion of me already that they're saying this. But I find it very suspicious that the tweets that she was liking and the support she was accepting was from the most hypocritical, mean people on this platform. And these are also people that they're literally sitting there saying, like, we have DMs, we've seen the conversation, we've seen everything. And I've asked Angelica, and she has told me that she did not send drama channels DMs and that she would never share a private conversation with other people. So I have to believe her on that, but I'm confused why, if they haven't seen screenshots and if they haven't seen DMs, I'm confused why they're pretending like they have in order to paint a narrative about me. Either way, somebody in that situation about what's been going on online the past few days, somebody's lying, and I know that it's not me. Now that I've yelled, I just want to end this by saying I've said what I needed to say. That is how I feel about this situation, and I hope that I've been able to clarify for anybody who was confused why everybody hates me because I didn't DM Nick Snyder. In both of these situations, I stand by my decisions and I feel that I made the right one, both in the Angelica situation and in the Houston situation. I know actually that I made the right decision. So regardless of if this group of people thinks that I made the wrong decision, that is totally fine. But I can go about my life and live my life knowing that I made the decision to try to uplift other communities instead of trying to silence them to protect my friends. I know that I can say that about myself, and that's something I'm very proud of. A lot of people are bringing up my collaboration with Manny MUA, the recent one that I did, and also bringing up the fact that I made videos talking negatively about him back in 2018 and also liked comments about him back in 2018. People are also bringing up videos from, I believe it was the first Sistergeddon, so it was 2019, where I liked comments about James Charles. I just want to quickly say just about the James Charles situation and that. Basically what happened was a channel pointed out, and a lot of other channels have pointed out, I liked comments that were calling James Charles a predator, and I also liked some other comments that were just like insinuating that Tati was correct about the bi-sister situation. That video was the very first video I posted about the bi-sister situation. I posted that video the day that Tati's video uploaded, and I think it's just important to remember at the time there was like multiple allegations against James from multiple people that seemed very credible that he had done inappropriate behavior. And I also think it's important to point out that at the time, because of Tati's credibility, everyone was believing Tati's video, including all of the drama channels that are now trying to say that like I am bad for having that video up. I cannot say that I will going forward like unlike comments that I disagree with a year later, because I can't do that. And frankly, I think that that situation to try to say that I am somehow anti-LGBTQIA+ because I liked a tweet about James Charles where it was insinuated he was a predator, because at the time I genuinely thought he was. I don't think there's any merit to that. And there is not a chance in hell that I would ever try to think that just because somebody is a gay man, that means that they're instantly a predator. I don't have a history on the internet of accusing gay men of being predators. I believed what I thought to be credible sources, like 90% of the internet did back when that whole thing happened. And that's really all I can say about that situation. Now, there is some instances coming up that Angelica pointed out in her video and that other drama channels have pointed out in their videos that I liked comments about Manny on a video that was about the very first Dramageddon that I made, where I was talking poorly about Manny and his behavior back when Dramageddon 1 happened. I genuinely think that if your way of trying to say that I'm a flip-flopper is that 2 years ago I held a different opinion of somebody that most people held and now hold a different opinion, I don't really know what to say to that, I guess. Like, if that's the worst thing I've done and that's the evidence you have that I'm a flip-flopper, okay. I personally would like to see that we normalize getting new information and changing your mind about people. The Manny situations that happened and the things that he was being accused of then, he has addressed publicly and talked about, and he has shown growth, which I showed in my video, in my interview with him. I showed the growth that he had. And I don't think there's, again, I don't understand what the point of bringing that up is, because I bet if I went to their old drama videos, I could find some shady things that they've liked that they probably still wouldn't stand by. That's just kind of the name of the game when you're a content creator, especially when we're creating commentary content and we're talking about people who do evolve and change either for the better or for the worse. And to everybody who's saying and pushing the narrative, oh, well, she's a flip-flopper because she disavowed Manny and now she's doing collabs with him and now she's on his PR list. Yeah, 2 years ago, Like 2 years ago, when he self-admittedly said that he was like not the greatest person, and 2 years later, I've decided that he's shown a level of growth and understanding of what he did wrong that I felt comfortable not only supporting him again, but having him on my channel. I know that they're trying to be like, oh, well, if Manny did something in the future, I wonder if she'd hold him accountable. Yeah, the answer is yes. I feel like if this situation has proved anything, it's whether you agree with it or not, I will continue to call out people even if I have a friendship with them. And I think Manny is aware of that, and I think he understands that. Like, I don't think there's any sort of disillusion that he's like sending me a palette, so now I'm not going to talk about him. I feel like the narrative is like, oh, don't get too close to Smokey Glow because if you do something bad, she's gonna call you out. Why is the narrative being pushed like, hey, don't do shitty actions that require people to have to call you out? And if you do, own up to it so your friends don't have to call you out. Just own up to it in the first place so we don't have to make videos on each other or talk about each other. Why don't we just encourage people who have a public platform to be better? Like, why? I don't understand why. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. Yes, I would call out Manny if he did that. Yes, I don't think he should have done in-person collabs during a pandemic. The reason I didn't call him out personally in the video that I did about that was because there was about 50 people that I was referring to who had done in-person collabs. And honestly, I think I would have gotten called out for trying to call out Manny. So yeah, I'll hold him accountable if he individually screws up, but I'm also not going to single the guy out when he's doing something that 60 other creators are doing. And honestly, I have another discussion with video going live later this month. I have another person who, like, I pre-filmed a collab with him before he had done a lot of in-person collabs. And yeah, I would have said, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing that. Like, yeah, of course I would have, but I did it before, and I'm not going to go out of my way to call the guy out when that's literally not what the video's about. The videos that I make, the discussion with videos, and even the evolution of videos, those aren't about nitpicking small things. It's talking about the journey of one person over the span of their career on YouTube. And I hope that's clear. Like, I'm not trying to like hide things from people, but at the same time, I wouldn't want you to think that I'm grilling you. I couldn't get anybody to come on if that's how I did those things. So yeah, I'm gonna keep holding people accountable, but I'm not gonna single people out when they're doing something that a large group of people are also doing. So this is the final part, and this is actually one of the more serious parts, and that's kind of why I wanted to make sure it was addressed with the seriousness that it was, because Angelica put up this thread, and I know a couple other people have. It's a Reddit thread basically saying like what happened to Smokey Glow's Trisha Paytas video. And in the thread, it's basically just saying like I said transphobic things and I was argumentative in my comment section, and I took the video down to try to hide the fact that I was being transphobic. Hi, quick little editing me. So I just wanted to make sure this part was crystal clear, and there was some weird stuff with not only the video, but also I just feel like I didn't fully explain this super well. So I want to make it like crystal clear what happened here. So I uploaded a video about Trisha Paytas and the whole situation where she was claiming that she was trans, like I think it was a little over a year ago at this point. And when I saw this Reddit post asking me about it, I was kind of confused because at first I was like, well, why would I delete that video? Like, I don't really know why. And I went back and watched it, and then I pretty much immediately remembered what happened with this whole situation. So I posted that video, and quite frankly, I watched the video back already, and I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna leave the unlisted link to this video in the descriptions, and you can go watch it for yourself. I don't have anything to hide. I didn't private it because I was trying to hide the video. I didn't private it because I was like, ooh, I said something bad, I need to cover for myself. I privated it because there was just misinformation in the video. I acted like I knew everything about the trans community, and I acted like I knew everything about all the terminology. I was basically acting like I was teaching a sociology class, and honestly, that video is just full of misinformation. I just said things that honestly aren't true. I know specifically my description of what it means to be non-binary was like super not right. And then also in that video, just kind of some of the language I used, it just wasn't the most inclusive. There's one part that implied that being trans had to do with wanting to transition, and that's also not true. You can absolutely be trans without wanting to transition. So what happened was I had that video up, and I had it up for like, I believe almost a year. I had it up. Had it up for a really long time, and my mom kind of called me one day and was like, hey, I was going through old videos and I found this one, and I just don't know if this is like a good look for you, basically. She was like, if you want to be a social worker, I think that this doesn't represent, not only doesn't represent your channel, but doesn't represent you as a person. Like, she was basically like, you sound like you're discrediting her, and if somebody who is a client were to watch this who is trans and coming to you, they might think that you're being judgmental or trying to dismiss her gender identity because you tried to speculate about like what she actually was going through. You kind of tried to discredit her because she's a troll. And my mom was basically like, I don't know, I think you should give this one a rewatch and just like decide, but I don't think this would look good for you for your social work career. And so I rewatched it and I was like, yep, you're right. This is not a good video. I definitely was misinformed in this video and I'm going to take it down because not only I don't want this misinformation to be up there because I looking back was incredibly misinformed. It wasn't even just that. I also didn't want to have the attitude that I have in that video. Again, I don't really know I don't really understand why I was so like aggressive about it. And so like I sound like kind of a know-it-all. So what I'm gonna do to address this, because I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to hide anything, is I'm going to link an unlisted link to the video down below. You can watch it and you can see where I screwed up. You can see the places that I was misinformed. Now, one thing I want to address is at one point in time, and this is where things get complicated for me to explain because I don't fully remember what happened. I post a lot of videos, I have a lot of conversations, I have a lot of pinned comments because I do make a lot of mistakes. What I do remember is I believe I tried to pin a comment explaining the kind of how I explained non-binary because I'm probably trying to defend it because I probably still thought I was right at that point in time. And I think I got some pushback in the comments of that pinned comment. I saw somebody say that I was saying that you can't be non-binary and also trans. And that's not what I said, if I'm remembering correctly. What I'm pretty sure I said was that you can't just assume that because somebody is non-binary that means that they are trans. The truth of the matter is, after looking into this is a really heavily debated topic. And if I'm remembering correctly, I said that in my comment and I pinned an article and a couple articles kind of talking about this. It's kind of a heavily debated topic, but my whole point was you shouldn't assume what a person, what their kind of label is. You shouldn't assume what their pronouns are, and you should just go based off of whatever an individual person tells you instead of trying to put like an umbrella around people who are non-binary and also trans. I don't know why I would have deleted that pinned comment. I'm assuming something similar happened where I just looked back at it and was like, man, this is not right what I'm saying, and I just deleted it because of that. I wish I still had it because I'm looking at the situation and I think it was just a case where I was incredibly misinformed on something. And honestly, that's bad. I can't have an audience that's as big as I have and post videos where I'm being completely misinformed on situations like that. So again, that'll be linked down below. You can watch it. And honestly, if you want to give feedback in the comments, I'll be reading the comments. The video won't be monetized, obviously. But if you want to give feedback in the comments about where I went wrong and we can, talk and I can learn even more. Because if there's more things I was misinformed about, I would truly love to know. But like I said, the only reason I took that video down was not to try to hide anything. It's just because it was a video where my attitude was frankly not good. And also there was a lot of misinformation in it that I didn't want to keep perpetuating once I learned and was more informed on the situation. I'm not mad that this was like brought to light on Reddit. I'm not mad that people are calling out this video because I need to own it like 100%. I think what I'm so confused about is if Angelika's video was meant to apologize for her wrongdoings and also explain the situation that happened between her and I, why was it so important for her to include something that had nothing to do with what we talked about, but absolutely looked very incriminating towards me? Made it look like I was being very shady or very suspect about something. It just feels like she saw this video and this post in the subreddit and felt like this would be a good thing to include at the end to shift the conversation and shift the blame away from her and on to me. So again, try to continue this narrative that the drama channels have been pushing all week, that the blame should be on Hannah for calling out this situation and not on Angelika for doing this in the first place. It just feels really suspect to me with this entire situation that she not only misrepresented and lied about what I said in the DMs to her and lied and said that I was going to go along with this narrative regardless, and then also tried to throw in some rumor that I was transphobic. So on like 2 occasions, she's trying to insinuate that I was doing something that wronged the trans community, which for somebody who really didn't appreciate being called out for that with no evidence, I find that just to be a little bit hypocritical, frankly. Especially because in this situation, she found a post that had no real details, but was just asking a question about what happened to a video of mine. I feel like she did exactly what she's claiming I did, which is that she saw a rumor about me and addressed it to her like 500 something thousand subscribers, which is, yeah, what I did. And again, I talked to her about all of this beforehand, If she had just asked me about that video, I would have told her the same thing I'm telling you guys, and I probably would have done the same thing, just made it public. The sad thing I kind of learned in this whole thing, I learned a lot of things, but one other thing I learned is it was sad to me, genuinely, when she was like, oh, bigger creators are telling me not to address this. Because the sad truth is, they're correct. If you don't address this and you don't own up to the mistakes you make and you're not upfront about it, if you're a large enough channel, like kind of we're getting to, honestly, yeah, you can let things fly under the radar. You can absolutely get called out and not talk about it and not own up to it, because it goes under. 90% of people, when I first made this comment about Angelica, were like, what are you even talking about? Because it flew so under the radar, despite it being relatively kind of a serious issue, that if like James Charles did this, we would be screaming from the rooftops about it as drama channels. I'm sorry that this video was so long, but I truly felt that there were so many things that needed to be addressed, and I didn't want to just like tiptoe around the issue, especially when it's something as serious as my integrity being called into question. I'm not willing to just tiptoe around that. I'm gonna sit down and explain it. I hope that I've showed you guys that. I hope that I can answer any questions in the comments, especially about the Trisha video. Again, it's going to be linked down below. You're welcome to watch it and you're welcome to criticize. I absolutely know I made mistakes in that video. So let's have a conversation about it. That's gonna be it for me. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, I don't know how. Yeah. Love you guys. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Oh, also, the Georgia Senate runoff races are happening on January 5th. Please look at the links in my description to check that out. It's a very important race. I really am pushing it. Please check that out. Anyway, thank you.